Hi, everyone. I'm Antoni. I'm a co-founder of LF0. And today we're going to be talking about making DeFi simple with Common, which is one of our ecosystem products developed by the core team and essentially built around the idea that you can have privacy in your on-chain life and that it makes sense and it doesn't have to be difficult, it doesn't have to be expensive. So what we're going to show you is a product that we've been working on for the past, including the core tech that Adam, my co-founder, is going to talk about in a few minutes, for the past, depending on how you count, but up to 2 years. And we're going to show you some mock-ups that are going to debut on the market in the first quarter of next year. And all of this is powered by LF0 and something that we call ZKOS, which is basically a way of making client-side ZK privacy fast. In the meantime, if you want to try this yourself, you can go to common.fi/shielding. This is a ZK shielding demo that we deployed on the testnet around a month ago. And it essentially takes you private in under a second, depending on your device. But the idea is that it works as fast as possible on consumer-grade devices, from phones to laptops. Compared to industry standards, this is pretty much an order of magnitude improvement. And we're looking forward to taking it to production in just a very short time, actually. Now, just to talk about what Common is. So far, last year we've deployed the first iteration, which is essentially a simple AMM built on the LF0 L1, which is a blockchain that's powered by our own consensus protocol and the substrate stack. In the meantime, we've had this idea that it's essentially much more effective to take it interchain by adding an EVM layer to LF0 itself, and therefore creating what we call like an interchain privacy pool, because thus far what we have are privacy pools that are deployed per chain, and there is no pool that can serve all chains or, well, all compatible chains. So just to start with, what can you do with Common? Well, you get your own single private account. So that's the important distinction here is that it's an account and not a wallet. So essentially, you can have a single account that's private for all of your EVM assets and all of the EVM protocols supported by our bridging partners. So far, we've announced Hyperlane, and we're going to be also next week announcing another major provider. Then going forward, privacy itself is really cool and interesting, and we do believe it's an essential factor to make Web3 more adopted, because even if we look at Web2 right now, privacy is there, it's just abstracted away, right? We use WhatsApp, it's end-to-end encrypted. We use Signal, it's also end-to-end encrypted, but it's not something that we essentially see as end users. And this is what we want to do with Common and DeFi. In the meantime, though, we also had this idea of making something called, or creating something called Smart Yield, which is a way for the protocol to optimize your positions in as much of a real time as possible across the most popular EVM lending protocols. So say you have a position on Aave, you're getting 8% on it, but in the meantime, some other position starts making 10%, then the protocol would reallocate your assets, ensuring that you always get the best yield possible while still staying private. So if you're a dolphin or a whale, or you just value your privacy, you don't have to disclose your positions to the entire world. You can pay with cards, which is cool. It's pretty much standard in all of the modern crypto apps now. But the way those cards work is not standardized yet. We've got fully custodial solutions with centralized exchanges. We've got solutions that are going in the non-custodial direction, like Gnosis Pay, as well as Wholly Held, who we work with and have already integrated on the network layer. And basically what's gonna then happen is that Common is your private account. you have the smart yield, which can be thought of as a way to save funds and essentially execute compound interest. Then you can use that money to pay in your everyday life. And then you also have bank accounts, an easy on-ramp that we're working on together with Harbor. This also is already deployed on the network layer, so you can essentially top up in just the latest benchmarks were around 4 or 5 seconds, and it's pretty much instant. And we are putting all of this in a mobile app because it's just looking at the user statistics. Mobile is, has always been taking the world by storm, and the same is going to happen with crypto. Common is also going to have a side panel for DeFi power users, but if we're talking about an everyday crypto app that is non-custodial and that can compete with custodial solutions, then this is the only way forward, we believe. And now just to talk a little bit more about the tech itself, Adam is going to come on stage with some technical slides to tell you more about what's powering zkOS. And essentially the concept of an omni-chain privacy pool. Thank you so much.
Can I see my slides, please? I think this is a different presentation. Oh, thank you. OK, so I want to give a very short overview of what tech-wise do we want to do. So first, this is the visualization of basically any privacy system interaction. So user usually sends a transaction to relayer, which then puts it on chain, where ZK verifier verifies whether user has rights to use private funds, and only then the funds get out of the privacy pool. So what's important here is that there are two subsystems. The first one is for internal funds management, and the other one is for managing withdrawals and deposits. So once user puts funds into the privacy system, they can flow inside without basically tokens going around the blockchain. Like everything happens within the ZK verifier. The tokens actually do not have to move in order to facilitate the private transfers among users. So there are two kinds of actions that can be done. The first one, as I said, is a private transfer. And this relates only to these three initial components. So user sends the transaction to the relayer, which puts it on chain, and ZK verifier verifies whether this operation is legal. And no tokens move. And then there is a transfer to non-private address. So only if a user is doing something like that, then the privacy pool needs to be contacted, and only then the actual tokens are leaving the privacy pool and, well, going somewhere. It can also be the smart contract interaction, not only the transfer to the other user. So what we're trying to do is to abstract away the notion of this privacy pool. So in Railgun, well, and other privacy systems, these tokens, they are usually residing in the single contract with a single role of keeping these tokens from the privacy pool. What we want to do instead is to generalize this system to allow for additional features. So the privacy pool can have just convenient API to be contacted with. So it's going to resend the tokens. But in the meantime, while it's not actually sending these tokens, it can do something else which is useful with them. And I'm going to go in a moment to that. So the idea of pool abstraction, just a recap, is that ZK verifier is the source of truth when it comes to the ownership. Then any withdrawal accepted by verifier is treated as withdrawal intent. So this is intent-based design, in a sense. And these withdrawal intents are being fulfilled by pool abstraction, where pool abstraction can do various things. So why do we want to do that? Like, what can we gain by using this kind of pool abstraction? So like, how I like to think about it is, since the privacy systems has this restriction that conceptually all the funds needs to reside in a single system, we can try to reap as many benefits of this necessary structure as possible. So here are two of them. First one is, since we have funds of so many users in one place, we can reinvest them and use the concept of fractional banking, where we reinvest only a certain percentage of entirety of funds, and then users can basically utilize their funds, and unless there is a bank run, meaning that too many users at the same time want to withdraw, there are basically no delays and everything is smooth, and only in this probably a rare case where big amount of users wants to do withdrawal at the same time, only then some additional delay for organizing the liquidity from the positions need to be incurred. So the first benefit of pool abstraction is basically generating API even on the hot wallet funds. So users doesn't need to think about investing them. They can be just reinvested without any while still keeping things smooth for the hot wallet usage. And the other thing is that the system can keep them on multiple chains to work as its own internal liquidity network. So it does not need to be a pool which is held on single chain. It can have some positions on various chains. So whenever a user wants to withdraw on, let's say, Arbitrum, then the system utilizes the sub-pool on Arbitrum. And then user wants to do withdrawal on Polygon, nothing actually needs to go through a bridge. As long as there is some sub-pool on Polygon, well, it can be used to withdraw funds there. This is not only convenient when it comes to fees, because user does not need to pay for the bridging fees related to this particular action. It's actually also good for privacy, because user can enter on Arbitrum, leave on Polygon, and there needs to be no bridging between these two actions. So user is essentially using a different token to enter, different token to get out. It's very hard to link such actions, much harder than it would be without such a mechanism. So summing up, two benefits. First one, even hot wallets can generate API. The second one, acts like transfer experience. So instead of thinking about bridging, we can just choose the address, the chain we want the withdrawal to happen on, and the amount. And after clicking go, we get the withdrawal. Thank you for listening.